just jump right into this. How'd you
Oh yeah.
first get into music? Like just
Oh
in general?
man. Just in general, I had an older brother named Jared who uh he had really eclectic tastes growing up. And so I really have to credit him with kind of being my entry point for music. He doesn't really do anything musical or listen to music like the way I do anymore. But when we were kids, he would have like the death metal band Death, he'd have their CD. And then next to that, he'd have, uh, a bootleg London underground, like techno CD that he'd driven like, an hour and a half to go buy some random store. And then next to that, he'd have Janet Jackson 1814. And then next to that, he'd have, the Ozzy Osbourne album that has No More Tears on it. Like just the weirdest kind of eclectic taste in music. And he handed me down a bunch of his CDs around the time I was probably 15, 14 or 15. And we also had like cassette tapes in the house, and he was hanging out with a lot of kids that played D&D and were really into metal. So I remember being really mad one day and putting on like Metallica Ride the Lightning like on headphones on a Walkman as loud as I could and being like, yeah, I like this. This is good. So then smash cut a couple years later to like staying up late watching Headbangers Ball in 120 minutes, and then like hearing Smells Like Teen Spirit for the first time. That was like the perfect age for when that came out. Blew my mind. I saw it in like the middle of the night, so I was like, I don't even know what this is. Like this is gonna be like I didn't think it was gonna be huge. I was just like, this is my shit. And then like the next day, it was like everywhere. It was massive. And then it was actually I was watching an Anthrax video for the song Persistence of Time. And in the middle of the video, I just had like one of those like lightning bolt moments where I was like, oh, I want to be in a band. And I didn't know how to do anything. I couldn't sing, I couldn't play guitar, I couldn't do anything, but I was just like, I want to be in a band. So I better figure out how to be in a band. And it just went from there.
Word, word.
I wanna be like Joey Lawrence. I wanna be Joey Lawrence tonight. I wanna be like Joey Lawrence. I wanna be Joey Lawrence.
Your first project, Flat Planet, that you were part of, or
No, I was in another band from Gilroy called Placebo, and we were not good at all, and we never did anything. Um, but when I was doing that band, the only place to really play was like people's garages and backyards. So there was this one house way out on the outskirts of town. I drive by it all the time because it's near my father-in-law's house. Just this like almost industrial park of a yard where like the dad I think did like metal work or something. And so the kids were just the type of kids that would have like BB gun fights, like real rough kids. And they every couple months would have a show on their property, and the show would always end with their dad getting upset and threatening to shut the whole thing down. And it would be like a couple hundred kids would roll out to these because there wasn't anything else to do. And so my band would play, and then whatever other bands would play. And then Flat Planet was one of the bands that played. And so that was my entry point into ska, seeing that band. I'd seen them months before. They'd played a show with the Deftones, before the Deftones were anybody. And Flat Planet was bad. They sounded like a high school band that thinks that Rush and the Police are really cool. And they were bad. And then a few months later I saw them and they sounded like, Fishbone or Skank and Pickle. They were like real wild, and they were like jumping all over the place and playing real fast ska punk. And I eventually joined on guitar, but only for about 11 shows. Aaron, who's the host of In Defense of Ska, he quit the band. He was just kind of over it. And then the band kind of petered out. And at that point, I saw in the back of Bay Area Music Magazine, BAM Magazine, that there was an ad from the band Link 80 looking for a guitar player. And so I called up and got into the band, and I'd seen them a couple times with Flat Planet before that, and I thought they were amazing. Like, it was, this band's everything I want in a band. And then I joined.
That's fucking amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it was I didn't have much time to do some research. Like you said, you got to
Sure.
just jumped it on me. It was hard to pinpoint exactly when in the discography that you jumped in. What was the thing you recorded on?
So the first thing I recorded on was Struggle Continues, but I was practicing with the band when they recorded Killing Katie. So I was going to practices at Nick's house and getting into the band then. But then it was just like, they were, in retrospect, I'm able to kind of figure it out a little bit more. And, Matt Bettinelli, who's now, a Hollywood director, at the time he was, balancing college and Link 80. Like, he'd come home from college and then immediately start playing shows with Link 80. And he was having to go back and forth and back and forth. And it just wasn't really working for him. But they were like, well, maybe we can just get a second guitarist. And, they were trying to figure it out. And I didn't really know any of this at the time. I just knew they needed a guitar player. And I was like, I'm in. Like, I love this band. Like, I want to be in this band. And so, like, had Nick not overdosed, like, there's a good chance that Matt would have just stayed in the band and we would have had two guitar players. When we did the reunion show in 2016 for the Asian Man Records anniversary, Matt and I both played guitar. Matt and I were never really in the band at the same time, but we get along just fine and we like playing with each other. So I think with Killing Katie at the time, it just made more sense for them to just record with Matt. He'd already recorded a record with them. I'd never recorded in a studio at that point. So the thing that's funny though is I really do feel like Matt played some wrong chords on Killing Katie, but it's punk rock, so it doesn't really matter. But I think all the stuff he did on 17 Reasons sounds incredible.
It does. That's an amazing album. Struggle Continues was one of my pinnacle albums around 2004 to 2007. I rocked that shit constantly.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's after we stopped being a band.
I know. I'm well aware.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm always really appreciative now whenever anybody brings up that they like that album, because in the time period that we put it out, like, ska was getting a lot of flack, and we were getting kind of burned out. Also because people would just say stupid things to you, like, oh, you guys would be a better band with Nick, and it's like, well, yeah, but he's dead, so I don't know how you expect us to do that. And I don't know. I feel like we were really trying our hardest to be this thing, and I don't know. That album was the album that I wanted to make. I wanted this really aggressive, really dark sounding record, and for as unfocused as we were at the time and untested, I think it came out cool. It was my first time ever recording guitar, and I kind of wish somebody would have given me a little bit more guidance. I was using Mike Park's amp that he just lent to me, because my amp was completely demolished from touring. And then I had these guitars that were super beat up from abuse on the road. And so I had everything just cranked like, like it was stage volume. Like I was just playing super loud with the gain all the way up. So everything's like, and I'm in this little enclosed space and everything's feeding back and going crazy. And I just kept saying to the engineer, Andy Ernst, I was like, does this sound okay? He's like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. And he was like recording us indoor with sunglasses on. So I don't know really what was going on with him at the time. He was just EQing it on the board. He's like, yeah, it sounds fine. I was just like, felt like I was being buried in this like wall of feedback. But I don't know. I'm happy with how it turned out, and I'm glad that people still like that record.
Oh yeah.
Everybody in Link 80 except for Steve Borth did a band called Dessa. That ran from 2002 to 2008. We did 2 full-length records, one that's on streaming, one that is not. We did a couple EPs. We did a split with a band in England called Howard's Alias. We did a few EPs that are online on Bandcamp for free. They were originally on our website, but after that, we took that down. We just put them up on Bandcamp. And we did 2 tours, 2 big tours, one in UK and Europe, and then a national tour with RX Bandits. And it was a fun band, but it was basically Link 80 without the ska. So it was just fast punk stuff, breakdowns. Our trumpet player moved over to second guitar, and so it was everybody that was in the band at the end of Link 80 playing similar music but without ska elements. And eventually it just fizzled out. It ran its course. Everybody kind of trying to get the band to play shows was like herding kittens. Like everybody's schedules were kind of crazy. So all we ever really did was just practice and practice and practice.
I wanna live like this, dreaming of a honey and a birthday soon by my side, playing all her favorite records that she stole from me. She speaks in tones no one understands but me.
2008, the band ends, and I start another thing just because my friend Brian, who ran a venue called iMusicast, he has a recording studio, and he was like doing a recording class. And so he calls me up and he goes, Adam, I need a band to record for this class. And I was like, okay, say no more. So I put out some feelers online, and I got Bob Vielma from Shinobu and Aaron Carnes from Flat Planet. And I said, let's just make up some songs and go record them. So we wrote 3 songs. So like on Monday, I got asked. On Tuesday, we practiced. On Wednesday, we recorded them. And I really liked the process of just, after spending so many hours practicing and practicing and practicing, it was nice to just practice it, take it to the studio, record it, done. So Narboots was definitely a lot sloppier and weirder, and just kind of, I was also feeling really nihilistic about music. I'd spent, a large chunk of my life at that point doing music, and I felt like I'd gotten nowhere. So when I started the band, I was like, I'm going to make this band annoying and obnoxious. And so we would just get real weird and do things that I didn't want to see other bands do, like tune with our guitars like at full volume, and like thank every single person in the venue, play the same song over and over again during the set. Just wacky stuff. And then eventually it turned into, Bob left and it was just me and Aaron, and we started just doing like electronic music and screaming over it. And so we just made this weird stuff where we kind of were less of a band and more of a cult. And we would just kind of like instigate these like weird dance parties and have fun. And we kept doing that up until the pandemic, and then it fizzled out because you can't really jump up and down and scream in people's faces if there's COVID floating around. But yeah, so Narboots probably overlapped with Dessa for maybe a month or two at the end of that band, and then Narboots overlapped for maybe a couple months with Omnigone on the other side of that.
Just a difference of perspective, a moment of confusion. There's no need for us to fight. We can find our own solution. Just a difference of perspective, a moment of confusion. There's no need for us to fight. We can find our own solution. One more time for the folks in the back. Civil rights.
So let's get into Omnigone, right? The first release was pretty fucking badass, but those 3 tracks ended up on No Faith, which came out later that year in September.
Yeah. So, I mean, we approached it the same way we did with Narboots, where it was the same recording class with my friend Brian, and he just let us come in, and I got Barry and Reese, who was the little brother of the singer from Link 80, Ryan Noble. He played drums on our first couple songs, and I just threw him up online and thought, oh, okay, this is it. That'll be it. And then I went to Ryan Paris's recording studio district in San Jose. Mike Park is part owner of it, and at the time the studio was super cheap. Like, it's still really cheap, but it was $250 for a full day, which is insane. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna bring a bunch of drummers down here, Barry, and we'll just write out chord progressions on a piece of paper. We'll play them, make sure we feel good about it, hit record, do the songs. We knocked out 11 songs in one day that way. Just like, one drummer gets tired, you just throw the next drummer in. And so I was trying to have 4 drummers there. Only 3 were able to make it. But, we just kept rotating through them. Whenever somebody would burn out, okay, move to the next drummer.
Got to keep that stamina.
Yeah. And so we got these 11 songs done. And, we took 2 of the songs from the first demo and re-recorded a little bit of that. And then that was the first record, No Faith. And I was real surprised that Bad Time wanted to put it out. I'd met Mike briefly 2 times before that, once at a Narboots show that I don't remember at all. And then another time at the gym, he was wearing an Asian Man Records shirt. And I just went up to him and was like, oh, hey, Asian Man Records. I was in a band on that label. And he goes, oh, what band? And I said, Link 80. And he just was like, oh. I was like, okay, well, nice to meet you. Okay. I figured, oh, maybe ska is not your thing. And then find out later, he was actually kind of, shocked that it was, somebody who was in, one of those bands. And it worked out. And then it turned out that Mike just lived on the other side of town at the time. And so I started going over to Bad Time and packing records and, making that a good relationship.
Word.
Yeah.
And for doing it that quick, 11 songs, No Faith turned out fucking awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we put in, Barry and I put in the hours, with Link 80 and with Dessa ahead of time. We already, I'm not the type of musician to want to micromanage other musicians. So if I write a chord progression, I write a song, I trust the drummer, I trust Barry, the bass player, to do what they're going to do and to be able to pull it off quick without me having to be like, oh, this needs to be a walking part and this part needs to be driving and this part, just let him do what he's going to do. And definitely almost 10 times out of 10, I would say that his initial idea is going to be better than anything I would have come up with anyways. And that was just how we approached it. We had Brent Friedman, Justin Ammons, and Aaron Carnes played drums on those songs. And each one of them brought a different thing to their song. And if one of them, maybe was feeling tired or wasn't sure what to play to it, just move to the next drummer. Easy enough, And I think that's always just kind of been our ethos of just, the band is really me and Barry. But then it's kind of a collective because at this age, not everybody can commit to a full-time band. And I don't want anything to hinge on any one person. Even, our first tour that we did with Mustard Plug, Barry caught COVID halfway through the tour. And so Andrew from Flying Raccoon Suit and Joystick was playing trombone with us at the time. And he's also a phenomenal bass player. And so we dropped off Barry at a truck stop, got him some water, some masks. His wife came to pick him up, and we kept trucking. And on the way there, Andrew just learned all the bass parts. He played through them like 2 times, maybe 1 time, 2 times, and then played his first show on bass that night and finished out the tour on bass. And I feel like at this point in my life, like that's the only way to make this happen, is to keep it loose and keep it so that it's like, okay, we'll just slot it. If somebody can't make it, slot in a new person, and just keep moving. Because otherwise you miss out those chances to play the show and have fun. And I've been doing this so long at this point that I have so many friends that play music, and I just want to hang out with my friends. And so even like when we went and played in the UK, I mentioned a band earlier, Howard's Alias, that Dessa did a split with. Matt Reynolds, who was the singer and guitarist in that band. I haven't seen him in 20 years, but I knew that we needed 2 guitars out there. And one of our guitar players, Eichlers from out here, couldn't make the tour. So I was like, okay, let me hit up Matt, see what he's up to. And it just so happened Matt was like, let me see if I can get some time off. He works for Apple. So he, a day later, writes me back, oh yeah, I can do the tour. And so then we got to have, my friend from 20 years ago gets to come out and play guitar with us and slot right in. And, I can just trust that he knows how to play the songs. He can look at us and go, oh, everybody's wearing black. Okay, I better put on all black also. He's walking around in tan shorts and like a whatever striped shirt or something. But then he looks at the rest of us and goes, oh, I should put on my black clothes now, and just gets down to it. And I love that. I love getting to hang out with my friends.
Now, see, that's awesome. I could learn all the guitar parts or bass parts, but I don't know if I'd pick up on the other social cues. I have some issues with that kind of shit.
I mean, the one thing that I've also noticed is a lot of the people that are gravitating towards us. I mean, we present ourselves as a straight edge band. Link 80, half of us were straight edge, half of us, smoked weed and drank and did whatever. And it was never really an issue other than we would, get irritated when the kids who wanted to drink wanted one more round at the bar, or when they started getting irritated when they couldn't score weed because we were in a state where it was harder to get weed. But we all still got along, and we all still respected each other. And I think if anything, the kids that drank and smoked appreciated that some of us were straight edge, because then there was somebody to drive at the end of the night. Somebody was sober. But now in this band, it's like a lot of punks my age, if they're not straight edge, they're at least getting sober at this point. And they're going like, oh, if I want to keep going, if I want to keep driving, probably getting blackout like every night isn't going to work. And like, some friends of mine will still smoke weed or, take a weed gummy before they go to bed to like help with anxiety or whatever. And like, I'm like, that's fine. You're just medicating yourself at that point. Like you're not doing it to get like blitzed. Yeah. But the thing that I've noticed is that it's been a lot easier doing a band where everybody's like maintaining some level of sobriety.
1 more minute left today. The sour taste of wasted seconds of life in the first light. 1 more minute left today. Make the most of what we have today.
The second release, which is the first one that I came across because it was fucking phenomenal, Against the Rest.
Yeah. So when we went into the studio for that one, we went to Jack Shirley's studio. Jack Shirley, people might know him from a band called Comadre. He also now plays guitar in a band called Dangers. He does a lot of like really, really intense hardcore records, or that's what he's known for. He did the Deaf Heaven records. He does Loma Prieta. Really cool stuff. Great studio. The new space is in East Oakland, so it's close to my house. He also, I gotta go back a little bit. He also played in a ska punk band called Anti 45 when he was a teenager, and they were awesome. So, anyways, we went down to the studio, me, Barry, and Joey Bustos, who played drums in Link 80. And we recorded 2 songs. And those were the title track on the album, Against the Rest, and then a song called One More Minute, which was actually a Link 80 song that we never got to record in Link 80, but we decided, okay, let's give it a go in this band. So we did those 2 songs with Joey. They turned out great. Joey was slated to do the whole record with us. And then about a week out, he had life issues come up and was just like, I can't make the time to learn these songs and put my all into this recording. So we're like, okay, well, we need to keep the studio time because we want to keep the momentum rolling. So Justin Amons, who played in Kitty Cat Fan Club and Obikubo Station, 2 of Mike Park's bands, he's been a friend for years. And I just hit him up and said, hey, we've got these 3 days booked. Can you come down to the studio and record? And he was like, I got a kid. I'd come down for 2 days. So I'm like, okay. So we still had 1 extra day. So Aaron Carnes, who played on the first record and is also the host of In Defense of Ska, let me just plug that again. He's like, man, I haven't played drums in a long time. Since the last time I recorded with you, I haven't played drums. So we're like, well, just come down. Like, we've got an extra day. Let's just try. And so we recorded about 8 songs with Aaron, and 0 of them made the record. He played fine, but the problem is then Justin came in, tracked all the other songs, and then went back and retracked all the ones that Aaron tracked. And it was just night and day. Justin's drumming was just top notch. And I was like, okay, we can't really use any of the ones that Aaron did. So everything got done in 2 days with Justin. He completely annihilated his right hand. At the end of the day, it was all bandaged and swollen from just all the impact. And we got the whole record done in basically 2 days. And then the thing that ended up taking the longest on Against the Rest was all the extra bits. So we had horns done by Steve Borth and a few of the members of the Guiding Light Orchestra, his band. And the funny thing is Steve is a very versatile player. Steve Borth, who was also in RX Bandits and Link 80, he mostly plays like kind of dub and rock steady and kind of world music now. But he understands how to play ska punk, and other like jazz players don't understand how to play ska punk. And so he would have to be like, no, you gotta blast, you gotta play hard. And so he whipped his friends into shape and got them to, play these parts like punks, even though these dudes aren't punks, which was cool. And then Brandon and Andrew from Flying Raccoon Suit, they did the horns on the rest of the record. And they really get it. They're a solid, strong horn section. And then all the other cameos were vocal cameos. So we had Jay from Suicide Machines on Communities in Collaboration. My friend Alex from band Fall of F. Rafa, he was on In the Gray. Volley from Vantana Row is on, what's the song called? Oh man, I'm blanking on my own songs. Destroy Him. That's the name of the song. And Duck from Joystick didn't get on it. Damn. Wait, no, he is on it. He's on Kill Your Ego. Duck's on there. Yeah. And then Esteban Flores of Mata Mosca and a billion other bands played keys on a couple songs. And so just kind of gathering all those little like bits and bobs, that took a little while. And then getting those all off to mixing. And then we got the record out and it was really fun. I wish that Joey had been able to play on more of the record, but I'm very thankful that Justin was able to step in and finish it for us.
Yeah, and that album turned out great. I've rocked that quite a few fucking times.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
What have we learned from history? History. When will they teach us the story? All the manuscripts are tearing out the pages. We'll be level crooks for seeming to from sages. Why is the history not heard?
And I didn't even know the new album was coming out until it was up on my new releases, and I was like, "Oh shit, there's a new album!" And fucking spun that. Shit's great, great. I've been rocking it all week.
It's only been 15 months between records, so
I know.
it was a quick turnaround, and I think if Bad Time will let us do it, we'll probably put out another one in about the same amount of time. We've already recorded 6 new songs since the album was recorded. And we have a backlog of about 30 demos that are like pretty well completed. Some of them don't have vocals yet, but there's, drum, bass, guitar, and there's a format to it. So there's a lot of music for us to pull from at this point, and new ones keep coming in every day. The best is just this week. Barry sent two new demos to me, and then Matt, who filled in on guitar with us in the UK, he made a demo because both of those guys, they both caught COVID while we were over there. So when they got home, they had to isolate. And I think both of them were going a little bit crazy. And so they've both been cranking out demos. One good thing that comes out of COVID, I guess.
Right.
I got the cover paintings right behind me right here.
That's
You can see how big it is.
word. That's sweet.
I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with it. I was going to give it to Barry to hang up in his house because Barry wrote most of the music on the new record, and I thought it might be meaningful to him. But I was also thinking, like, man, maybe I should auction this thing off. Maybe do an eBay auction, see if somebody wants this in their house. Raise a little bit of money for the band, because man, being in a band is expensive.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah. I mean, especially just going to England. Everything costs money. We got to rent a vehicle to drive around in. We kind of got screwed there. We're too old to stay at people's houses anymore, really. So got to get a hotel room every night, which is nice. It's nice having a place that's clean and a place to shower, but it's expensive. And then plane flights. Plane flights in a month from now will be about half of what we spent flying out there. So just the timing accounts for a lot.
Appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's fucking phenomenal. Last minute, like I felt like I wasn't as prepared as I should have been, but I couldn't turn down the opportunity, right? Because I've been working so much, but I've been trying to line up these interviews that now they're all starting to fall several on the same day. Like I have an interview here at 9:30 with gentleman Nick from a band called The Odd Advantage.
Oh yeah.
I got an interview coming up. You kept dropping Flying Raccoon Suit. I got an interview with Jessica and the drummer early on the 19th. I'm supposed to interview Dennis from 10 Foot Pole on the 10th, as well as Chris from Big Brother and all of DFL, Dead Fucking Last.
Nice.
I'm supposed to interview those guys, right? So, like, these things, they're stacking on each other, and I think it's fucking awesome, right?
It's great. Yeah. I mean, we're kind of right in that same situation doing In Defense of Ska. Yesterday, we interviewed the person who created the mozzarella stick meme, which that was interesting. And then who do we do in the morning? Oh, we did the singer from Ice Nine Kills, because they just did a cover of Walking on Sunshine with Real Big Fish.
That seems odd, but I'll have to check that
Super
out.
odd, especially because they're like a metal band that opens for Metallica. Like that's wild.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he was a super cool dude, and he was just hanging out in his like childhood bedroom. Like he'd played either the night before or the next day was playing like a hometown show, and I guess he said every time he does that, he just stays with his mom, and he's still got like all of his stuff in that room. So I thought that was cute. Yeah, but yeah, they start to just come together the more you do it.
Word, word.
Word.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a way also for you to feed that part of yourself. I mean, me getting to do interviews, it's always like I'm always stoked to get to talk to a musician that I've loved for so many years.
Oh yeah.
And it's always really exciting,
Even if no one
getting
else has
somebody
heard of
on.
them, like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
like,
Oh, those are the even better ones. We got to have on the singer of this band, 3 Mile Pilot, who they put out my favorite album ever in 1998. This album, Another Desert, Another Sea, and just to get to tell their singer and Aaron, the other guy, he's a huge fan of the record too. And so we had this guy on our podcast. He's like, I don't really know why you guys want to have me on a ska podcast. And it's like, oh, it's because we're both mega fans. And he was like, oh, really? And we just gushed about how much that album means to us. And he was just like, wow, like he had no idea. So I mean, I think it's cool. It's like it gives people a chance to like connect in a different way.
my favorite ska band, the band that introduced me to ska. Somehow I don't know how it came across in St. James, Missouri, back in the
Uh-huh.
'90s, was Hoodlum Empire.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So I found this Hoodlum Empire CD and I fucking rocked that shit all the time. It was
Yeah, yeah.
Hoodlum Empire got me into ska, and the band The Meanies, the Australian punk band The Meanies, got me
Yeah.
into punk rock. And I got to interview Ian Miller from Hoodlum Empire. He even said that because you can't find that online anywhere. You can't
Yeah, yeah.
find Hoodlum Empire. It's not on any
Oh,
streaming
not at
service.
all.
I was like,
Now Ian
he
Ian went on to play in Skang and Pickle, right?
went on to play on Skank and Pickle. Yes.
Okay, so I was at a party at my friend Nicole's house, and I see this dude holding up his shirt. He's got all these tattoos, and he's got this U.S. Thugs tattoo, like in Old English. And I'm like, oh, that's a hard ass tattoo. So like, I go over to him later. I was like, yeah, that's a sick U.S. Thugs tattoo. And he's like, oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm like one of the OG dudes from that. And I was like, oh, cool. What, you play in a band? He's like, oh yeah, my name's Ian. And I was like, wait, you were in Skank and Pickle? And I just like punished him for like an hour straight. I was just like, and then I saw you play here, and then you did this on this record.
Right.
Because I mean, he was in a bunch of bands. He was also in Redemption '87.
Redemption
Um,
'87. He's in Kowloon Wall City right now, which is
yeah,
totally completely different than
yeah. And then he's also got a band called Strange Light, I think,
Yep,
and he's
yep.
got another one called No Light,
He was
like
in
just
a
like a straight up
band.
hardcore band.
Yeah, like oh, but yeah, it was awesome. That dude, I did an hour and a half long interview with him, right, where we discussed his whole discography from the beginning, and
Oh
it was
yeah.
fucking phenomenal. It was
Well,
phenomenal.
and
That
that's
guy
and
was
that's
awesome.
great too, because somebody like Ian does never get to like really do a deep dive like that. People just go like they know like one little part of his discography. But for somebody like you to come in and be like, okay, we're going from Hoodlum Empire to Kowloon Walled City, like
And
there's a
we
there's
did.
a lot of stuff in there, a lot of different things, that guy did, and just the fact that he does all this like heavy music, but was in Skank and Pickle, kind of during like one of their best eras too.
Yeah, yeah,
Like he's a trooper.
right. And
Him and his
and
him and
that
his wife are both still real good looking people too. Both of them are just like, I'm like, you guys are aging like fine wine. You guys look great.
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, that Hoodlum Empire really got me into ska, and it has a nice variety. There's kind of like a surf aspect to it, and
Yeah.
the way that dude spat out them lyrics. But like I said, it wasn't anywhere online. He allowed me. He's like, go ahead and put it up on your YouTube page.
Oh
So
hell yeah.
if you want to jam that album, you can stream it on my page, which is
Oh, I love
fucking
it.
awesome of him to do because I've been trying to tell people about this band for years, but
Yeah, yeah.
after that dude disappeared, like no one picked that up and did anything with that album.
Sure.
So it's lost to time. And
Yeah.
Makes me wonder how many albums out there are like that. Just
Oh,
fucking.
there's a ton. And the funny thing too is I don't know what's in the water in San Jose, but there was a band called the Caps, which was more recent, like probably like 2014, 2015 maybe. Little kids playing like it was surf mixed with ska mixed with power violence. Like it was like their favorite bands were like, Ceremony, and then like Leftover Crack, and then like Manor Astro Man. So just like this weird amalgamation of like just this like really intense like ska punk, I guess you could call it, but like not ska punk the way people think of ska punk. And then two of the members of that band, the guitar player went on to be in this hardcore band that's really big now called Spy. And then the bass player went on to be in this other hardcore band, Scowl, who are also huge right now. And they put out this, yeah. They're both bands are like huge, but they both started out in this like weird San Jose ska punk band that like is another album that's like lost to time. Like you can find it on in some form on Bandcamp, and they pressed it on tape, but that's it. Like and the only shows they played were like backyard shows and like weird, coffee shop shows.